We are in the final week of a series that we have been calling Hostage. And I got to tell you, this is going to be a fun week, okay? Because we're going to talk about anger. Anybody angry in here today? Okay, I see a few hands. There's a few angry people in here. How many of you on your way to church this morning, you got angry? Anger. It's such a real deal, and it doesn't, it doesn't take, we don't have to look too far to see it. If you're on social media, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, anger is everywhere. It's just everywhere. It doesn't take long you don't look through it too much, and it's everywhere. I want to ask you, what is it that makes you angry? What is it? Those of you that are watching online, just type it in the chat room right now. Just what is it? Just one thing. What is it that makes you angry? Just to be honest and you're only as strong as you are honest. I'm going to share some things that make me angry. Maybe some of the things that make me angry are some of the things that make you angry. For example, one of the things that makes me angry is traffic on 485. What's the deal, people? Everybody should just move at 70 miles an hour and we would all be good. How come we can't do that? Huh? I know some of you want to do 80. I get that. Let's just start at 70 and we'll work our way up. But traffic, what is the deal behind traffic? It's irritating. It makes me angry. Speaking of traffic, just a few weekends ago, my wife and I, we were on our way back from Sunset Beach, and we were on Highway 74, straight into Monroe, and there's hardly ever any traffic there until we decide to come home. And we're on our way home, and we kind of run up on this, just a few cars, but they've got both the right-hand lane and the left-hand lane blocked. And I'm like, what's going on? Why are they going so slow? It's 70. We should be doing 90, and all that. And I realized that just right up in front of me, a few cars up, there's a police officer, and he's not driving the speed limit. He's doing 67. Now. And sometimes he would go down to 60. Now, if you're a police officer in the room, and I know we've got several of you, I think you guys do that on purpose sometimes. I think you get on the highways and you drive slow just to see, is anybody going to pass me? Because here's the deal. Nobody wanted to pass this guy. Nobody. And it wasn't one of these things where you just drive for a few miles and then the police officer gets off the road and then everybody speeds back up. No, this lasted for 20 miles. Do you know how long it takes to drive 20 miles? A long time when you're doing 60 and 65. A long time. Long enough for your anger to build up. And on this particular day, my anger was building up. I couldn't understand. Why won't they just pass the guy? He's not even doing the speed limit. I finally work up behind the car that is behind the police officer. So imagine with me, there's a police officer in the right-hand lane. Behind him is a Mercedes G-Wagon. That dude can do faster than 60. And then in the lane beside him, there's another car. Nobody would pass the police officer. So I'm trying to get past. So I start flashing my lights. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Slow traffic moves out of the left-hand lane and into the right. I'm flashing my lights. Andrew's like, you can't do that. That's illegal. He's going to pull you over. Honey, I don't care. I'm flashing my lights. This guy needs to get out of the left-hand lane. It's making me angry. If that wasn't bad enough, as soon as the police officer pulls off the road, he was a local police officer, local cop. He probably wasn't even working traffic. He probably wouldn't have pulled us over at all if we'd have just flown by him, But he pulls off. The moment he does that, that Mercedes takes off and leaves us. So what did I do? I stomp it, and I'm gonna go after him. I'm like, Andrew's like, what are you doing? Well, honey, I don't know. I'm just mad. Why didn't this person drive faster before, I mean, little things like that make me angry. I'll tell you another thing that makes me angry is Chick-fil-A. I know it's Christian chicken. But sometimes I can get angry there, especially when I ask them if they have soda water, okay, or carbonated water or sparkling water, and they tell me that they don't. Because I know they do. This past week, my wife and I and my daughter, we were at a Chick-fil-A and we ordered, and I'm standing there in front of the guy, and I said, he asked me what I wanted to drink, so I said, well, give me a sparkling water or a soda water. And he said, we don't have soda water. I said, yeah, you do. Yeah, you got it. It's in that little thing right there. No, we don't have soda water. It's carbonated water. Can you give me some carbonated water? Don't have carbonated water. And I could feel my anger going up. I know you got it. Don't you tell me you don't have it. I know you call your manager here. That's what I wanted to say, but I didn't. I just said, okay, just give me a bottle of water and I'll be fine. So I paid for it. We walk over on the side. Caden and I are standing over here on the side, and I could clearly see the machine. I could clearly see it, and I could see the soda water. I could do it. So I said, Caden, take a picture of that thing right there, and I did what most of you would do. We Snapchatted somebody that we know that works at Chick-fil-A, so we sent a Snapchat to Luke, and Luke confirmed. They have soda water. They have it. And I could feel myself getting angry, like I should go back and tell them. I should pull them all together. We're going to have a team meeting. Come on. You have soda water, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. It made me angry. I wonder, what is it that makes you angry? What is it? It doesn't have to be soda water. It doesn't have to be traffic. Maybe for you, it's your spouse. It could be your spouse. Like on the way to church this morning, you had an argument. It was your spouse. Or it could be, for some of you, it could be your roommate if you're in college. What is it for you? Maybe it's your coach, the coach that coaches your kids' team. You know, they pulled them out too early, and you're like, oh, they're not getting enough playtime, and he just makes me mad. I don't like that. I don't know. What is it? What is it that makes you angry? Maybe it's COVID. Maybe it's the restrictions that it has created, or the lack of restrictions that it's created. What is it? What do you do with your anger? That's what I want to talk about today. In fact, I've entitled today's sermon, What to Do with Our Anger. What is it that we can do with our anger? It's been said that anger is one letter short of danger. Think about that. Anger. It's one letter short of danger. That's exactly what it causes in our life. It causes danger. It causes damage in our lives. And here's the thing about anger. It will not just stop with you. It will affect the people that are around you. It affects everything. Jesus had a lot to say about anger. Last week, if you'll remember, we looked at a sermon, a very famous sermon that Jesus preached. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Last week, we looked at worry. It's a little section in his sermon that he preached about worry. Well, this week, guess what? He's going to talk about anger. And so if you have a Bible, open them up, turn them on, go to Matthew chapter 5. And in Matthew chapter 5, we're going to pick up this sermon. Remember now, don't get mad or angry at me. This is Jesus' words. I didn't say them. If you've got a problem, you go talk to him about it. But Jesus is going to deal with our anger today. And listen to what he's going to say beginning in verse 21. He says, you have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. What is he doing? He's referring back to the Old Testament. He's referring back to the Ten Commandments, to the law. He says, if you commit murder, you're subject to judgment. But I say to you, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. Now, we read that, and I know what some of you are thinking right now. Oh, my goodness, because I'm in trouble. Imagine as Jesus preaches to these people, he starts talking about and relating our anger, their anger with murder. Listen, I want to bring out an important point. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down about this. This is what Jesus is saying. Anger is more than just a response of our flesh. It's a posture of our heart. You read his sermon. Jesus was constantly trying to get to the heart of the issue. Where is it that murder comes from? It's born in the heart. It's born in an angry heart. So it's not just acting out of anger that's wrong. It's us entertaining that anger. It's us taking that feeling that emotion and giving into that emotion and turning that emotion into words. In verse 22, he says it. He says, if you call someone an idiot, you're in danger of being brought before the court. Like you're in danger of judgment if you do that. That word idiot there is the Aramaic word, or translated from the Aramaic word, raka. And it's really what this word was used as in this day and time. the Jews would attack people with that word. It was what they would use to discredit them, to call them worthless, to hurl insults at them, to bring people down. And Jesus was saying to us and to them, when we use our words to make someone feel undervalued or hurt, like that whole anger thing, it's coming from your heart. He's addressing our response to anger. So I want to ask you, how do you respond to anger? What's your response? I've noticed, and this is just in my own life, when my heart is not in a good place with God, my anger is in a bad place. And Jesus, he says anger doesn't have to be displayed in our actions. It doesn't have to be displayed through murder when it's hidden in our hearts. See, it's a heart issue. So right now you're carrying around anger. You struggle with anger. Recognize the fact that it starts on the inside. When you feel that anger, it's like a light coming on, like the check engine light coming on in your car. Whenever that check engine light comes on, you've got a choice to make. You can choose to ignore it and suffer the consequences from whatever happens mechanically, or you can take that car and you can get it serviced. For us, when anger comes into our lives, it's an opportunity for us to step back and see, okay, what are we going to do with this thing? How are we going to respond? To show that we're controlled by something other than just our flesh. Okay, anger is a big deal. Jesus, he goes on in verse 23 and he continues to talk about it. He says, so if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go and be reconciled to that person, then come and offer your sacrifice to God. Now, what is Jesus saying? He's saying, listen, don't seek forgiveness from me. Don't bring me this offering of forgiveness. Don't try to come asking for forgiveness from me when you haven't forgiven someone else. Don't bring me your best, because that's what they would do. They would bring their best to him when they're giving everyone else their worst. Jesus is saying that you can't have a right relationship with God when there's a wrong relationship with others. You just can't. If your horizontal relationship is broken, then your vertical relationship with God is going to be broken. It's just the way it's going to be. So who do you need to reconcile with? Many of us walked in, or we're watching right now, and there's anger in our life. There's bitterness there. We're angry at someone, and there's a brokenness that's there. Who do you need to be reconciled with? We all have a part to play here. Some of us, we've tried to make things right. Now, I want to help some of you that you hear this and you think, wow, I've got some brokenness in a relationship. So you're saying that if there's something wrong in a relationship that can't be right between me and God. And I want to say, some of you, you've done all that you can do. Some of you have tried to make things right. And I want to encourage you, you just keep doing your part. But you got to do your part. Jesus, in verse 25, he just keeps preaching on, and he seems to go off subject here a little bit, because he says, when you are on the way to court with your adversary, settle your differences quickly. Like, well, what are you talking about, Jesus? Otherwise, your accuser may hand you over to the judge, who will hand you over to the officer, and you will be thrown into the prison. And if that happens, you surely won't be free again until you have paid the last penny. Well, thank you, Jesus, for the legal advice. I thought we were talking about anger here, right? What is Jesus saying? This is what he's pointing out. He's talking about resolving anger. Okay, this is what he's saying. He's saying resolving anger will cost you, and not resolving anger will cost you even more. He's saying, settle your differences quickly. If you don't, what's going to happen is your accuser, they're going to hand this thing over to the judge. The judge is going to get involved. He's going to get a police officer involved. You're going to get locked up in prison, and you're not getting out of it until you've paid the whole fine. You've paid it all. Like this thing, you can deal with it now. You can deal with it, or others can get involved with it. You can just keep carrying it around, carrying it on with you. What is it when we're going to go to court? What are we thinking about? What's on our mind? Winning, right? Like we want to win. If you've ever been to court, you're thinking, I want to win. I want to win. That's exactly what happens when we get angry. When we get angry, we're thinking about winning. When we get angry, we get angry because we think that our point was right. We were right. I get angry at traffic because traffic shouldn't be stopped. It should just keep moving on at the speed limit. I get angry at Chick-fil-A because I know they have soda water. I know it. Some of you thinking, why does he want soda water so much? I'm a recovering Coke-aholic, okay? Coca-Cola. I just love Coca-Cola. And I'm going on 2 years without it because of soda water. So anyway, I'm freeing you up. Some of you, you're going to ask that question just like everybody in the last service did. Anger. We're all about winning. We're all about being right. Let me tell you something. Jesus never called us to be right, but he did call us to be loving. And when we get angry, we lose the lovingness about us. If you're taking notes, write this down. This is going to help somebody. The person who seeks to win in conflict always loses. You always lose. You may feel good at the moment, but later on you'll realize that you lost a friend. You may feel good at the moment, but later you'll realize that you lost your witness or you embarrassed yourself. Resolving conflict, there's a cost involved, but if you don't resolve conflict, there's even a greater cost. So what conflict and what anger do you need to get resolved in your life? Let me tell you something about the cost of anger. Number one, anger hurts you. If you don't know it, you need to know that anger hurts you. Listen to this. You're 3 times more likely to have a stroke when you're angry. There's a 19% more likely chance that you'll have a heart disease if you're an angry person. I mean, this is all true. It's studies that they've done about this. Anger, it weakens our immune system. Anger, it does something to us. 2 hours after an angry outburst, guess what? You double the chance of you having a heart attack just from anger. It hurts you. Anger, it really hurts you. And it doesn't just stop with you. Guess what? It hurts other people. Anger hurts others. It hurts others. You think about the qualities in life that we prefer in friends. Like we all want friends who are super negative, quick-tempered. They're just mean all the time, right? No, none of us want that. No, if you're like that, you're not going to make anyone's top 10 list at all. We don't want people like that. But angry people, they put stress on us. They challenge us. One of the greatest challenges to marriage, if you're having a hard time with your marriage in here today, one of the greatest challenges to marriages these days is anger and resolving conflict. In fact, the number one determiner for a successful marriage is the ability to resolve conflict. It's anger. Relationships are made more difficult when we're a person that's angry. Think about maybe your supervisor at work or your boss. Are they angry? Think how much harder it is to work for them. Anger, it hurts you. It hurts others. And number 3, anger makes Jesus look bad. Whenever you see someone with anger issues, someone who just they blow up for no reason at all, you don't look at them and think, wow, I want to be just like them. And yet for us as followers of Jesus Christ, that's who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be people that other people look at and they think, I want to be like them. I want whatever they have, I want it in my life. See, nobody wants to imitate that. Paul said this to the church in Ephesus. He said in Ephesians chapter 4, he says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity to the devil. Now we can't be angry. There's an anger that doesn't lead to sin, but I'm talking about the anger that does today. And he says, don't give an opportunity. That word opportunity there is the Greek word topos. And what that word literally means is a place, a residence, a location. What Paul is saying is don't give in your life, in your heart, don't give him any room to set up, shop in your life, because if you live, like you just leave a little door cracked open, it's like he'll slip his foot in, and he's coming in. He's setting up residence. Don't give the devil any room in your heart. And that's what anger does. It makes Jesus look bad. It sets up in our life, and it gives a foothold for the evil one. So what do we do with our anger? What do we do with it? I want to challenge us today as a church to redirect our anger. If we're going to be angry at something, let's be angry at the right something. Let's don't be angry at sinners. Let's be angry at sin. Proverbs 19 verse 11 says, sensible people control their temper. They earn respect by overlooking wrong. See, most of the time what happens is the object of our anger is someone else. We've got to learn to redirect that. It's okay for us to be angry when we're angry at the right things. Our problem is we're oftentimes angry at the wrong things. We oftentimes direct our anger towards the sinners and not the sin. Aren't you thankful that God didn't do that? Aren't you thankful that God did not pour out his wrath towards sinners, but that he poured out on sin? He didn't direct his anger towards us, because if he did, we wouldn't be here. He directed his anger towards sin itself. And we've got to learn to do that. I heard a story this week that I thought, wow, this is a perfect example of what that looks like. There's a pastor out in California. His name is Albert Tate. And I was watching this sermon where he was talking about a good friend of his. She's a really very popular speaker in the world today. You probably have heard of her before. Her name is Danielle Strickland. And he was talking about a story that Danielle told him. Danielle is a communicator. Danielle, she travels the world and she plants churches. She is an advocate for women's rights. She fights sex trafficking and slavery for children. I mean, this woman is amazing. Well, she's telling Albert a story about a time when she was in Canada, in Vancouver, and she was doing some ministry there in this little neighborhood that had been overran by drugs. She said, in this neighborhood, you take, for example, the local park. She said, instead of seeing children and families playing in the local park, there was needles and there was drug paraphernalia there. I heard this story and I'm thinking, wow, hold on a minute. That's a great example of targeting the sin and not the sinner, because I'm just thinking, if this was anywhere around us in our community, guess what we would be doing? We would be trying to push out the sinners. We would be trying to go, listen, so we need to get the police in there. We need to get someone in there to clean this park up. But you know what Danielle did, which is so amazing? It's probably what normal Christians would do, is instead of targeting the sinners, she targeted the sin, and she started a Bible study. Sounds crazy, right? In the middle of a drug neighborhood. She started a Bible study. And there was a guy there that was attending the Bible study that got saved. His name was Robert. He got saved. Jesus transformed his life. And this guy was on fire for Jesus. He was so passionate for the Lord. He loved Bible study. He loved it. There was this one time when they were meeting for Bible study, and they were reading a verse that we've read many, many times before. We actually started the series out with a verse talking about this, and it was this. It was the verse where Jesus says, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. And Robert, he just pressed pause. He stopped. Hold on a minute. I'm the light of the world? Like, is that, I'm supposed to be the light of the world? And they looked at him and said, yes, Robert, you are the light of the world. That just took over Robert. Like, it amazed him. You know what he did? He jumped up out of Bible study. He runs out of there, hits the street, and just starts running down the street shouting, I'm the light of the world. I'm the light of the world. I'm the light of the world. That's what Robert did. And so all the people at the Bible study, they're freaked out. They're like, what just happened? What's going on with Robert? And they didn't know what to do. And they kind of looked at each other for a little bit. And finally, one of them spoke up and said, well, shouldn't somebody go check on Robert? Is he okay? What's going on? And so Danielle, she says, I'll do it. She jumps up, she runs out, and she runs after Robert, and she finds Robert. She finds him in this park that we just talked about. And he's standing there in the park, and as he stands there, she comes up to him, and he's just, he's out of breath. And Danielle says, Robert, are you okay? And he just looked at her. He says, yeah, I'm okay. I'm being the light. I'm being the light of the world. I'm being the light of the world. And then he leans over. He says, can't you see the darkness trembling? I came here today to tell you, church, to tell the Lift, it is time for us to stand up and to cause the darkness to tremble. We are the light of the world. It is time for us not to get angry at sinners, but to get angry at sin. Amazing. Think about what it could do if we could just redirect our anger. We can move it away from the people in traffic or the people in some department store or in some drive-through. And if we could turn it towards the one that really deserves it, the evil one, the devil, the one who said, I'm coming to seek after you. I'm coming to kill, steal, and destroy your life. What would happen if we could turn our anger towards him? The one who's going after your kids. The one who's targeting the one that you keep changing their diaper 25 times a day. He's targeting them. What would happen if we could redirect our anger towards him? What could happen if we would redirect our anger towards the one who's coming after our marriages? Who's trying to do everything he can to separate us, to tear us down, to destroy our homes? What would happen if we would just redirect our attention and our anger to him and get it off of the sinners and put it on the sin? We would see the darkness begin to tremble. Anger starts right here. It's a matter of the heart. It's a matter of the heart. If you've got anger in your life right now, then your relationship with God, it can't be right. You gotta do something. Don't keep carrying it around. Don't keep carrying it around. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to destroy you. And it's not going to stop with you. It's going to work its way into your kids. It's going to work its way into your spouse. It's going to work its way into your family, to your friends. And if that's not good enough, you're just making Jesus look bad. Church, let's be the light of the world. Let's cause darkness to tremble. Let's represent Jesus, and let's represent him well. Heavenly Father, I pray that today will be the day that we release our anger. We take it off of sinners and we redirect it towards sin. And some of us, we're just really battling anger. I pray you free us from it today. Please, Lord, free us from it today. With your heads bowed, your eyes are closed, I want to ask you just a simple question. Are you angry? Are you allowing your anger to overtake you? Are you allowing your anger to break and to cause some distance between you and God? If you've got an anger issue today, let me tell you, the way to seek healing, the way to start to heal and to surrender it to Him and to redirect your anger is just to admit it. You got to start by admitting it. I'm going to give you a chance to admit it right now. You struggling with anger? Why don't you just lift your hand? Just lift it. Just hold it up. I'm struggling with anger. I really am struggling with anger. Thank you. Those of you online, you can raise your hand too. Just put a little hand raised emoji there. There's strength in admitting our weaknesses. Thank you for being honest. You know, one of the things that I noticed, if you'll remember back earlier, I talked about the fact that when my heart is not in a good place with God, my anger is in a bad place. And for some of you, you're such an angry person. And it might be because your heart is not in a good place with God. How do you get your heart in a good place with God? Well, it first has to start with a relationship with Jesus Christ. So, do you have a relationship with Jesus? Has there ever been a time in your life when you surrendered to Him? When you acknowledged that you're a sinner, that your sin separated you from God, and you need Jesus? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about God. He loves you so much that His anger, He didn't pour out His anger on you. He poured out His anger on sin. He placed His anger on His Son, Jesus Christ. He placed the weight of your sin on Him. Jesus, when He hung on the cross, He hung there because of you and I. He did it for us. Scripture says that He became sin on our behalf so that we may be made right with God. Are you right with God? See, in order to overcome anger, to redirect your anger, it starts in your heart. It starts with positioning your heart before Him. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity right now. If you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say yes to Him right now. With your heads bowed, your eyes are closed, your heart is open. You want to say yes to Jesus? Just pray this prayer with me. I'm going to lead you. I'm going to lead you. Just pray this prayer with me. It's very simple. Just acknowledge the fact that you are a sinner. Just tell Him, Jesus, I know that I'm a sinner, and my sin has separated me from God. Jesus, I believe that you are the Son of God. Go ahead and tell Him that. And I believe that you died on the cross for my sins. And Jesus, I want to surrender my life to you today. Will you save me? Ask Him. Ask Him. Jesus, will you save me? Will you forgive me of my sins? Listen, if that was your prayer, Jesus Christ just forgave you of your sins. He just forgave you. He just forgave you. Like now, your anger can start to change because you literally have the Spirit of the living God inside of you right then. I want to ask you something. We're being honest today. We're being honest today. Was that your prayer? Was that your conversation with Him? If it was, I want you to tell somebody.